I just got back from the NAMM Show, and it was wonderful, and it was full of energy, and it was very exciting, and it was great to see so many people. And the event really seems to be coming back. And one thing that I picked up through all the millions of conversations you end up having over the course of that week is there's optimism, but there's also a lot of concern that people are sharing. There's a sense you get in the air that people are feeling concerned, feeling stressed, feeling worried, and they have good reason for it. But I wanted to do an episode today to talk about my sincere, my true, my deepest belief that the music industry, and especially the music lessons industry, the music learning industry, the teaching industry, and the instrument industry for that matter, is going to do really well over the next decade. I believe in this, that regardless of what happens around us in the world, in our country, that this industry is going to do well. And I wanted to talk about that today as an encouragement to everyone who listens, but also just to share where I got that opinion and why I carry that opinion. It's not just because I'm a Pollyanna and I'm an optimist, which I kind of am, but it's really because I actually believe it based on what I've learned, based on what I've seen, based on the trends, and based on the environment of right now, that any direction we move forward as a culture and as a society and as a larger entity, I believe that music education, learning music, instruments, that these things are going to remain critical and important in people's lives, the people who are our customers, the people who want this, and of course the teachers, the people who are giving these lessons. I do believe that we're going to see an amazing period of growth and success in this industry over the next 10 years. But I also think that there's something we, as the industry leaders, as the teachers, as the composers, as the authors, as the product manufacturers, as the dealers, there are important things that need to be done to ensure that we're creating the culture, that we're creating the right environment for this work to thrive, for the industry to thrive. And that's what I want to talk about today. I believe that the music lessons industry is going to have a decisive golden age over the next 10 years. I talk about this all the time. I've talked about it for the last 10 years. It has been a great era to be a music teacher and to be a music student. And I think it's only going to improve. Yes, some sides of the product industry, they're going to struggle, supply chains, tariffs, all the things, that's going to be a challenge. But the demand, the students, the people wanting to learn, that is in a good place. The human side of this, the meaning, the purpose, the connection, all the things that makes music so important in our lives, that demand is only going to increase. And let's just talk about that a little bit. I've heard dealers, some of the people that I've interviewed for the podcast, have said things such as people aren't studying music, they're not buying instruments as much as they used to. The boomers that were really getting into the rock thing of their childhood, they're not buying as many instruments. I dug into that a little bit, wondering, are we seeing a decline in music instruments being purchased? And what I found is that the Bureau of Economic Analysis reports that in 2014, United States citizens spent about $5 billion on music instruments. And in 2024, people in the United States spent about $8.7 billion on musical instruments, which is a 72% increase. And even if you adjust that for inflation, that's still a 40% increase in what people were spending on musical instruments decade to decade. So even with all the doom scrolling and saying, oh gosh, what's going on? People are still buying more instruments. There might be more competition. There might be more options. They might be buying different instruments. But the culture is there. Instrument sales will follow. When the culture shrinks, the instrument sales will shrink. This is a culture issue that we want to continue moving forward, is having people become more cultured, having families seeing the value of what music education and learning an instrument is about. On the lesson side, it's even more interesting. I spend a lot of time talking to music teachers, music store owners, music school owners, and I also recently got to speak with the CEO of MTNA, the Music Teachers National Association, Brian Shepard. And they did this really cool survey of their community in 2024. And one of the things that they found is that 56% of music teachers have a waiting list. These are private, independent music teachers. Most of MTNA's membership are private teachers. Over half of them have a waiting list. They're busy. So in reality, we can think, oh gosh, there's a school of rock down the road, and there's all these music schools, and there's all these teachers. But the reality is that most teachers who are doing this, who are really interested in the work, they're really busy. They're often more busy than they wish they could be because there is more demand than there is supply. And the interesting thing about this supply and demand, the supply being the music teachers or the music school or the camps, whatever the students are looking for, the great thing is there's so many different ways to go about learning this instrument. You can go to a local music school. You can work with a private music teacher. You can teach yourself on YouTube. There's all these different ways. And so that demand, it filters itself out. But even with that, most music teachers are really busy. And this is also really due to the last 10 years. There's been a big push in increasing the professionalism and the respect and the pay of independent music teachers and private music teachers, putting a value on the unbelievably immense value proposition of learning a musical instrument, of becoming a creative, cultured, expressive, connective human being. Music is such a great vehicle for that. So here we are. We've looked over the last decade. Musical instrument sales have gone up. Music teaching, private lessons, that market has actually really expanded in the last 10 years. We've worked really hard getting people to charge more, to impact their communities more effectively. And it's working. So now we're at this point looking forward of what exactly is going to come next. No one knows. But what happens next is a combination of something we can't control, which is what's going to happen in the greater world, politically, economically, culturally around us. In most scenarios of what happens next, private music lessons, music education, music instrument purchases, that's not going to change that much because the different environments still need and will create a demand for music. But what's really important is what we do. And that's why I wanted to do this episode, is that the next thing to happen, the most important thing, is that we do these things. We have to be involved. We have to grind it out. And what I mean by grinding it out is not a toxic work ethic or anything like that. But I was really lucky in building a tech company and working in the tech industry, is understanding the culture of how hard it is to get something off the ground and seeing other founders and their teams, how hard they're working to get their products off the ground and being in that ecosystem. I realized that in my private teaching business, that was my life's work and quite successful, is that there was a lot of elbow grease that I could have put into it that was more tangential to the work itself, but was important to the community as a whole. At that point, I was really happy just having a waiting list and making a great living and teaching. But now I feel like our responsibilities, as we've elevated as music teachers in our communities, and the importance in that, we're earning more money, we're being respected, we're being considered a valuable asset to the communities that we serve, is that we need to get out there and make ourselves known and be part of this movement that's helping to demand more music in schools and to back it publicly and to support it however you can. right? The message is that music is not an extra thing, it is a critical part of human development. And how can you do that as a private flute teacher or guitar teacher? Is showing up at the school. How can you help the music teacher? How can you get the word out about what's going on? How can we increase enrollment in those band, orchestra classes to where people are creating that demand within the community? Kelly Reardon, who's one of my favorite coaches in the space, she runs Outside the Box. She has this amazing philosophy that's a marketing strategy that happens to just go along with this, which is the idea of, as a private teacher, the best way that you can go about getting your name out in the community is to become helpful to those local band directors, to become vocal about the importance of their work and to support them. Because once you go in and take over some sectionals, help out wherever you can, give that teacher a moment to grade some tests or just have a cup of coffee. I'm kind of pulling this from seeing a bunch of her talks and seeing her talk at NAMM, by the way. It's secondary to be able to get new students from that, which you will. But the primary thing is that you are believing in the importance of this thing and you're embedded yourself in your community saying, hey, I'm someone who believes in this. I'm someone who knows this is important. I'm going to be everywhere that I can to help get the word out about this and to support it. We've all seen how communities rally around sports or test scores, and they'll rally around culture and art too, and some communities do, but they'll generally have a leader. They'll have someone who's pushing it, someone who's driving it, and you can be part of that. The second thing that we need to do in our profession in this next coming time is to continue two things: continue being awesome and to be abundant. Everyone who's heard me talk about everything for the last 10 years knows that my primary marketing strategy, growth strategy, joy strategy is to focus on being absolutely awesome in the lesson room, to deliver an amazing service. And in these times, that service can just be listening. That service can be connecting. We talk about this all the time. But it's important to make sure that when you go into your studio, are you feeling awesome? Are you 100% present? Are you listening to that student? Are you listening to their parents? Are you connecting with them? Are you offering them the opportunity to learn about the culture and to appreciate it and to grow with it where they are in that moment? And you can be demanding and you can also be relaxed. You can be your own way, but being awesome is the key because that's what's going to create a flywheel in the community of other people wanting to be a part of your work, of your students going out into the world and your students doing great work and being great humans and having learned that in the walls of the room where you teach. I think this is so important. And I think this is such a big deal because it takes work to feel like you can be awesome, like you feel rested, like you feel like you've got the emotional bandwidth to listen to the people who are coming in and to be fully present. And it's what we do because the nature of this work and why it fits so well into anything that's coming up next, whether we enter an era of really hard times or boom times, whatever happens, you can be flexible. And that idea of something beautiful and present and real and creative will always be a necessity in that environment. Because one thing we know for sure is that the next phase is going to be more digital. It will be less connected. It'll be less human expression. And because of that, human expression and creativity will become more important, more valuable. I've heard a lot of people say that the main job of the next era is going to be in corporate world is going to be the visionary and the storyteller, the person who can craft a story, sell a vision, create a vision. That thing is you. That's what we do. That's what we're about. And we do it with our students. We do it with the content we create. And we have to focus on that. And being abundant in that, this is where it's more elbow grease, right? Where we're saying, okay, cool. I'm doing this thing. I'm committing to creating this culture in my community. How can I be more abundant? How can I be more visible, more welcoming? How can I make a clear offer? How can I make it easier to work with me? This is on you, and you can't work hard enough at improving this because the more that you do, I'm going to offer group classes, I'm going to build a camp, I'm going to do a beginner intensive for adults, I'm going to offer a parent orientation so they understand what's going on, what learning music can be like, how it can work. And this is on you, it's on us, which is to say, oh my gosh, we can do this. Whatever happens, we're going to be okay. And let's just really put the work in. Let's put the effort in to say we believe in this thing. We're going to do as much impact as we can, and we're going to do it our own way. I was at PASIC, which is the percussion conference, and I met this teacher, and it absolutely just, he rocked me. One of those things where you walk in to the booth and you're instantly totally connected. And one of the things I loved about him is he talked about his pedagogy and how in the first year of studying in his studio, there were no expectations for practice or repertoire or mastering technique. The first year was all about creating this connection, creating this love of being around music and rhythm, of hearing about who the luminaries were, who were the people that had influenced him, but also him listening to what that kid liked, what games they were playing, what were they enjoying, what mattered to them, what were they listening to. For a year, that was his syllabus expectation for that first year. And I connected and loved that so much because he knew that if he could get buy-in on that first year and create someone who was curious about becoming part of culture and learning and expression, that in the next four, before that person went to college, he could create, in most cases, a professional level or at least a collegiate ready level percussionist. I love that because it's so unique. And I love the energy that he brought to it. And that goes with this so well is that every single person listening, you're doing your own thing. I'm not telling you ever what to do or how to do it, but we've got to be vocal about the importance of what we do. We've got to be vocal about the critical nature of music being all around us in our communities, how much it can help bring people together, soothe difficult situations. We've got to be vocal. We've got to be unique. We've got to be expressive. We've got to be clear, and we've got to work hard to get it out there. We've got to step up and say, I'm going to be more available. I'm going to be more present. This doesn't mean you have to work more. Maybe your goal is just to say, I'm going to be teaching fewer students, but I'm going to be magnificently present with them. And I'm going to create this environment where these kids or these students just feel so respected. Or I'm going to be super laid back, or I'm going to teach 100 students because I want to get in there and I want to reach as many people as possible. You have to ask yourself what that's going to be, but you have to ask yourself what that's going to be and commit to it. So when you ask yourself, what generates interest in studying music and learning music and bringing music into your life? For many cases, it's a parent who just wants their kids to get great tests, or it's something they feel like they need to do. They want to give their kid the opportunity to learn a musical instrument. What really drives the growth and what really drives commitment is once a student at any age is looking to become part of or join or study something they find very interesting, whether it's a band they love or an artist they like or a style of music where they feel is their home, that is their community, and they become a part of it. That's where you start to get the commitment, whether they're in band, whether they're in choir, whether they're doing a band program at a local music school and learning how to rock out with their friends, a songwriting camp, or maybe they go to a concert and they were a kid and their first concert was Taylor Swift and they loved it so much and they started writing songs and they got a guitar and then they next thing you know they have a band. There are all these entry points and we need to be aware of them. When times are good, people need music. When times are bad, people really need music. They turn to it. And in both of those environments, great artists pop up. Great artists come into the scene and they inspire other people to learn. They inspire people to join them in the moment and to express themselves, to pick up the instrument. And that's not going away. And there's one of the things I heard a lot at NAMM was, oh, people are just doing electronic instruments now. But the stats don't really show that. Yes, people are enjoying producing music because they can, but there's a great amount of joy. There's also more people in the country that are learning instruments, that want to learn instruments. So, yes, electronic production is a thing, but it's also still making music. It's really fun. I love it. So, we don't want to back away from that. We want to be a part of that. So, everything that we're talking about here of seeing the landscape, of feeling confident that we're going to be okay in all of the possibilities of what could come ahead for us, how we outline this value proposition of what we do and all the energy we put behind it, that we're gonna really put ourselves out there to put our mission forward, to also reframe and remember that music is not about getting higher SAT scores. Music is about expressing one's true nature and how they are ingesting and metabolizing life experience, how they're building community, how they are connecting, how they're understanding history, how they're finding belonging, and how they're locking into the identity of who they're going to be. This is what music is about. There are very few mediums or courses of studies or self help books that can do so much as what music can. We've got to remember this as we're looking at what comes next. And yeah, there are outside forces, and I'm trying to kind of bounce around them because you can probably guess what people are stressed about, why people are worried, what indicators that they're seeing, and tariffs that they're paying, and prices that are being passed on to their customers. It's hard to skirt around it. But the encouragement is away from those external forces. This is our best bet, is to say, you know what? Who knows what's going to happen? I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to be awesome. I'm going to take this incredible vehicle, which is music, and I'm going to use that as a way to bolster, to buttress, to hold up, and to elevate this community that I serve. And in order to do that, I'm going to I'm going to hustle. I'm going to put extra time and energy into advocating for art, into telling my community that I'm here to help them develop and understand a cultured mind and to create art and to have this in their life. People are going to know that I'm available, that I'm going to be awesome. This is really important for all of us to do. We can't retreat. We have to be there. We have to be in it, and we have to commit to making it work. That's about all the time I have for today. Thank you so much for listening. I really just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking with you about the emotion and the experience I brought back from NAMM and talking with a bunch of people, and to encourage you. Despite all the pressures and all of the stressors that may be fomenting around us in our world, the demand for music, the human need for culture and expression and connection is not going away, and it's growing. So, if you're a teacher, a performer, a composer, a studio owner, an educator, if you're just starting your career, if you've been doing this a very long time, I can tell you there is space for everyone and the unique value propositions that they offer, and that this is an amazing time, an important time, a critical time to be doing the work that we do. So take away from this whatever you will and do your thing. But remember, it's do what you need to do to become awesome in the studio, to have the space to be creative, to be abundant and available in your community, to tell the story of why this matters, and to sell the vision of a more cultured and educated and musical and creative world and community. Make it easy for people to say yes to music and to what you're doing, and stay positive. We've got to keep going. And when you start to doubt yourself, take an inventory of the students that you've taught. And hopefully, if you've been doing this a long time, you've seen them grow up and you've seen them become amazing human beings and do wonderful things in the world. So take an inventory of the work that you've done. And if you're just starting out, know that that's coming. You're making something beautiful. You're making the world better. People will remember and appreciate what you're doing. And it's really important. So thanks so much for listening. Hope you're all having a great day, and we'll talk to you really soon. Take care. You've been listening to the 440 Podcast. If you found this helpful, subscribe at Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a quick rating. It makes a big difference. To learn more about how to run your teaching studio with less stress and more joy, visit fonz.com. I'm Eric Branner. Thanks for being here.